The rain hammered down on the tin roof of the old auction house, creating a rhythmic sound like the rapid heartbeat of a creature on the verge of being forgotten. Inside, the pale yellow glow from dangling light bulbs cast shadows across the faces of old men in soaked coats, eyes sunken from years of working the land. In the damp air, thick with the smell of sweat, rotting straw, and rain, the final horses of the auction were herded out onto the slick wooden floor. No one really paid attention. People came here looking for good stock. Animals still capable of labor, or at the very least, with bloodlines documented in papers. And then, it appeared. A chestnut horse, dull-coated, its mane tangled like it hadn't seen a brush in years. Eyes lowered, but not extinguished. It stood in the center of the ring, silent, like a ghost from another era. Devalued, weary, skin stretched over bone, but something in the way it stood made it impossible to look away. The whip struck the wooden podium, a sharp crack slicing through the sound of rain. The auctioneer's dry voice rang out. This one, no papers. Unknown origin, starting at $50. Who'll take it? Silence. Almost absolute. Everyone knew, $50 for an animal like this was generous. Someone chuckled. Another shook their head and turned away. But in a shadowed corner, beneath the brim of a worn hat and a rain-soaked coat, Hunter stood. A farmer who lived alone on a barren hillside nearly 100 miles from here. He hadn't come to buy anything. His ranch was full, maybe even overflowing with souls left behind. But something about this horse made him stay. It wasn't the way the animal begged for help. Because it didn't. It stood there, as if it knew something no one else in that room could possibly understand. Hunter took a long breath, hand tightening around his hat, and slowly raised it. $50, he said. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Another useless mouth for old Hunter. Maybe he's opening a retirement home for horses? Hunter didn't answer. He didn't need to. When the gavel came down again, sold to Mr. Hunter, he simply stepped forward, signed the papers, and led the horse toward his battered old truck. He couldn't explain why he did it. Maybe it was pity, maybe instinct, but perhaps, deeper still, the horse had stirred something that had been buried too long in his own memory. He didn't know that when he opened the door of that trailer to let the horse step inside, he was also opening a door to a secret long buried. A secret no one wanted unearthed again. The black night draped over the winding dirt road leading back to the farm like a heavy curtain steeped in the scent of damp mud and old rain. The dim yellow headlights of the worn-out truck pierced through thick fog, casting flickering beams like memories stirred in the midst of a fever dream. The sound of hooves striking the metal walls of the trailer echoed steadily in the darkness. Not loud, not anxious, just steady, as if Rainbow Dash knew exactly where she was going, as if she'd walked this path before, even though Hunter had never met her. Hunter drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the cracked leather bench, the same bench that had supported countless tools. Stray dogs and cats, and memories he'd never told a soul. He didn't look in the rearview mirror. He didn't need to. But inside him, something was shifting. He wondered, what had he just brought home? Not just a horse, not just a spontaneous decision, but a fragment of memory, revived in that gaunt frame. The rain had slowed to a drizzle when the truck pulled up to the gate of the old farm. The wooden fences on both sides had been worn smooth by time. Nails rusted, wires broken. Hunter stepped out, boots sinking into the soft red mud. The night wind swept through the trees, carrying with it the distant cry of an owl and the earthy scent of damp hay and soil. He opened the trailer door. Rainbow Dash still stood there, motionless, like a living statue, not trembling, not restless. Her ears flicked slightly at the sound of a wild owl deep in the woods. Her neck lifted gently, as if she were sniffing something only animals could sense. Hunter sighed. All right, come on, girl, he said quietly. The horse stepped down, slow, deliberate, controlled. Each step seemed measured. She didn't move like the broken-down rescues Hunter had taken in before. No panic, no confusion, only presence. A quiet, grounded presence. Under the dim yellow light of the barn, Hunter got a better look at Rainbow Dash's body. Faded scars down her legs. A faint white streak running along her forehead, almost invisible unless you looked closely. But those eyes, still held a glint of light, silent and deep like the bottom of a well. "We'll start over, then," Hunter whispered, gently patting her neck. Rainbow Dash flinched, not in fear, but, as a reflex. As if she had once been struck in that exact spot. Hunter paused. That reaction, not unfamiliar. But not normal, either. Quietly, he led Rainbow Dash into the barn, guiding her to the last open stall at the end of the hallway. The wooden door creaked. That familiar sound from winters past when he'd knocked on rusty hinges just to feel less alone. He filled the trough. Rainbow Dash stepped forward and drank. Not with desperation, not with dainty pride, but as if she were waiting for a signal to begin. Hunter folded his arms, leaned against the stall door, and watched. "Who are you, girl?" he muttered, half joking, half serious. Rainbow Dash just stood there, eyes narrowing slightly, head tilting, as if she were listening. Or perhaps, reading him. And then, he saw it. A faint mark, obscured by mud and dust. On her left flank. He moved closer, gently wiped away the dirt. And when the image came into focus under the barn's yellow light, Hunter froze. A circle, pierced by an arrow. A symbol he could never forget. Holston Stables. His heart pounded like a hammer against his chest. This horse wasn't anonymous. She was a remnant of a past that had been wiped clean. A past that, if she truly was who he thought she was worth more than the entire ranch. Hunter couldn't take his eyes off the brand on Rainbow Dash's left flank. A perfect, clean circle, blurred by time, but unmistakable. An arrow pierced through its center, the cold-blooded, prestigious mark of Holston Stables, the most renowned horse ranch in the country, known for producing champions that sold for millions. He reached out and ran his fingers over the mark again, as if needing to confirm he wasn't dreaming. And then, the memories came rushing back. The catalogs he'd flipped through under the glow of a yellow lamp late at night. The grand auctions he once dreamed of attending. The names he admired from afar, never thinking one would show up in his backyard. But what sent chills down his spine wasn't just the symbol. It was the name it brought to mind. Hunter tore through the old tack room drawer, covered in dust. Weighed down by the years he'd abandoned his dreams of racing. A warped wooden drawer jammed with crumpled flyers, faded brochures, and yellowing certificates. Finally, he pulled out a thin notebook, spiral-bound and nearly rusted through. Inside, grainy printed photos of hundreds of horses. Lineage, bloodlines, birthplace, ownership, all meticulously recorded. Page 43. He flipped to it, and stopped. His eyes locked on the photo. Those eyes. That mane. That faint white stripe. It couldn't be anyone else. Rainbow Dash. Her name printed in bold. All caps. Rainbow Dash, sired by Iron Legacy, owned by Holston Stables. A horse who had won 3 races in a row during her first season. Famous for the nickname, the Final Warrior, for always clinching victory in the final stretch. Even when left behind for most of the race. And then, 5 years ago, she vanished. No one knew why. The reports stopped. Rumors surfaced. Injury. Failed drug tests. Sold overseas. But nothing was ever confirmed. Only one truth remained. Rainbow Dash disappeared as if she had never existed. Hunter looked up at the horse standing in the stall. Thin, silent, but eyes still glowing. And couldn't comprehend. Why? Why would a creature once worth millions, raised in the best stables in America, be thrown into a back alley auction? Sold for the price of a cheap meal? Who wanted her gone? And worse, who was afraid of her return? As if sensing his gaze, Rainbow Dash slowly turned her head back toward him. No fear, no confusion, just a look that seemed to say, "You finally figured it out." The night wind slipped through the cracks in the old barn walls, rustling the hay on the floor. Hunter folded his arms and leaned against the wooden frame. A strange feeling began to stir inside him, not fear, but something else, something waiting to be told. Rainbow Dash wasn't just an abandoned horse. She was evidence. The question was, evidence of what? The night had fallen deep into silence. Only the wind sweeping over the old tin roof and the soft, steady breathing of Rainbow Dash in the barn could be heard. Hunter stood alone in the kitchen. Yellow light casting down on a scarred wooden table. In front of him lay an old notebook. A faded photo of Rainbow Dash in her prime. And the reality. A worn-down horse, suddenly appearing in his life like a ghost from the past. He couldn't stay silent any longer. From the wall, he lifted the old rotary phone. Each turn of the dial let out a mechanical click, like tapping on the walls of the past. He hesitated, then dialed the number. 3 rings. A gravelly male voice answered. Still alive, Hunter? Hunter exhaled, lowering his head slightly. Hello, Levi. Levi Grayson. A name that once carried the weight of a seal in the horse racing world. A legendary trainer, who vanished after a scandal within Holston stables. Calling me at this hour, Levi said, must be more than just catching up. Hunter looked out the window, where Rainbow Dash stood still in the stall. I just bought a horse. Thin, no papers, but it's got a brand. Holston Stables. Silence on the other end. Hunter continued, his voice slow and firm. I think it's Rainbow Dash. This time, the silence lasted longer. Hunter thought Levi had hung up. Then, where are you? Levi asked, his voice suddenly low, as if a cold wind had swept through. I'm at the ranch, Hunter replied. But Levi, I need you too. Don't touch anything else. Levi cut him off. I'm coming now. Click. The call ended. Hunter set the phone down, feeling like he had just awakened a sleeping beast. The house suddenly felt colder. Wind slipped through the cracks of the door, carrying a strange scent, not of damp grass or soil, but of secrets. And then, that feeling returned. The sense of being watched, by something that had no eyes. Hunter looked toward the barn. Rainbow Dash still stood there, motionless. But, her ears were pointed straight at the house. She heard it. She knew Levi was coming. She knew something was about to be unearthed. Dawn hadn't come yet, but Hunter knew. A new darkness was just beginning. It wasn't yet dawn, but the headlights of a faded black pickup truck slid past the wooden fence of the ranch. The tires crunched over the wet gravel with a slow, heavy sound, like a warning echoing from an old dream returned. Hunter stood waiting outside the barn, shoulders draped in a thick wool coat, hat pulled low over his face. On the threshold, Rainbow Dash remained awake, not resting, not relaxed, but standing guard, eyes fixed on the approaching vehicle. The truck stopped, the door opened, and Levi Grayson stepped out. Once hailed as the horse whisperer, he looked different now, his back slightly hunched, hair peppered with gray, a weathered face, but his eyes still sharp, as if he had never let go of his old instincts. The gaze of a man who had trained champions, and seen the filth beneath the glittering surface. He didn't offer a greeting. He walked straight toward the barn. Rainbow Dash, as if she recognized him, lifted her head to meet Levi's gaze. In that moment, no one said a word. Just that look, between a man who had once understood horses better than anyone, and a horse who had once lived in a world where lies wore the mask of glory. Levi whispered, almost to himself, "My God, it's really you." Dash. Hunter tightened his fists and stepped forward. So, it's really her? Levi didn't look away from Rainbow Dash. No mistaking it. The gait, the eyes, the faint stripe on the forehead. This girl was the heart of Holston. And then, she vanished. No one knew why, Hunter said. No one wanted to know why. Levi corrected. A heavy silence fell over them. Then Levi turned to Hunter. Voice lower now. Rainbow Dash wasn't abandoned. She was buried. Hunter frowned. Why? Levi leaned back, exhaling hard, as if wrestling with memories he'd buried long ago. 5 years ago, just days before the big race at Belmont Stakes, Rainbow Dash was in peak condition. Then suddenly, she was gone. No announcements. No press. Holston issued a dry statement claiming the horse had an injury and was retired early. But something didn't sit right. Hunter tensed. It's just a horse. Why cover it up? Levi looked him dead in the eye. Because Rainbow Dash saw something she wasn't supposed to see. The air seemed to freeze. Hunter whispered, repeating Levi's words. A horse? Witnessed something? Levi nodded slowly. I heard the whispers. The last night at Holston, an argument. A backdoor deal. Blackmail. And then someone turned up dead. No evidence. No witnesses. Only Rainbow Dash. Hunter looked at the horse. Still standing. Still silent. But now, he saw more than weariness in her eyes. He saw a memory locked away. Levi's voice deepened, almost a warning now. Holston doesn't let things leak. If they find out Rainbow Dash is alive, they'll come back, not to reclaim her, to erase what remains. Hunter clenched his fists tighter. So what now? Levi looked him in the eye. Unwavering. You got two choices, Hunter. 1. Hide her well. Or 2. Uncover the truth they tried to bury 5 years ago. But if I choose the second, Levi nodded. They'll come. Not with offers. With execution orders. Hunter stayed silent for a long time. The wind whistled again through the barn slats. Rainbow Dash shook her head gently. A cloud of dust rose from her dry mane. At last, Hunter spoke. Slow, steady. Then we start with the truth. The wind shifted. Not the wind of weather, but the wind of change. The kind that carried the scent of rusted metal, of burnt files, of power cracking open when dragged into daylight. That afternoon, the sky hung thick and gray like molten lead. Hunter had just finished fixing the bridle straps in the west barn when he heard the crunch of tires on gravel, slow, steady, intentional. He looked up. A sleek black SUV crawled past the old wooden fence. Tinted windows. Headlights off, because it didn't need light. The car brought its own kind of darkness, not born of nature, but of people who never needed to knock. Levi stepped out from the main house. Joining Hunter. He didn't ask. He just pulled his hand from his coat pocket and cracked his knuckles, an old reflex. When war was near, the SUV stopped. The door opened. 2 men stepped out. The first, tall, perfectly tailored black suit, shirt pressed to a flawless edge, eyes cold and polished like cut stone. The second, smaller, shifty-eyed, collar popped like a razor blade. Too clean for this muddy land. The tall man approached, pulling a leather wallet from his pocket. Are you Hunter Callahan? Hunter looked at him, didn't answer immediately. A beat. And you are? The man flipped open the wallet, flashing a badge with embossed letters. Richard Holston. The name made Levi take a half-step back. Holston. The man behind Holston Stables. A legend wrapped in legacy. A man who, if seen leaving the estate in person, meant something was happening that others weren't trusted to handle. Apologies for the surprise visit, Holston said, voice smooth like ice melting on metal. I just have a few questions, about a horse. We've got plenty of horses on this ranch. Hunter replied evenly. Which one are you after? Holston smiled, but the expression never reached his eyes. A chestnut, tangled mane, a famed brand of ours. I believe, you just picked her up. Silence. Sharp and cold. Levi spoke, voice dry and edged with disdain. Strange, for $1 million racing stable to misplace a horse. Holston didn't look at him. Just adjusted his sleeve, as if brushing off invisible dust. We're not here to debate the past, Mr. Grayson. We're here to reclaim what's ours. Hunter felt the hair on the back of his neck stand. Holston met his gaze, unblinking. I'm offering a number. Generous. 10 times the auction price. No need for conflict. Hunter clenched his fists. His heart beat faster. But his voice remained steady. It's not about the money. The smaller man, sharp-voiced and colder than the storm clouds, finally spoke. That's a foolish choice. No one said another word. The wind swept across the pasture. In the barn, Rainbow Dash stirred, her ears flicking toward the door, as if she had heard everything. Holston buttoned his coat, eyes still locked on Hunter. Some things, Mr. Callahan, are better left buried. Dig too deep, and you'll bring the storm on yourself. Then, without waiting, he turned and walked back to the car. The smaller man lingered, his stare like a blade that hadn't struck yet. The doors shut. The SUV rolled away. As slowly as it had arrived. Hunter stood motionless. The first wind of the season swept through the ranch, carrying with it the smell of approaching rain. Levi spoke softly, nearly a whisper. That wasn't an offer. That was a warning. Hunter didn't respond. He just looked toward the barn, where Rainbow Dash stood, head tilted slightly, eyes calm, as if she had lived through this once before. This time, Hunter knew. He wasn't just protecting a horse. He was protecting a truth that the powerful had killed to keep buried. Morning came, but there was no golden sunrise. Just a thin veil of mist covering the hills. Like a cold blanket hiding something the sky didn't want humanity to see. No rooster crowed. No sunlight broke through. Only shades of white and gray. And the creaking of damp wood. Hunter sat in the kitchen. A cup of coffee gone cold long ago. On the table, an old file folder, a notebook with notes on Rainbow Dash, and a faded printout from the auction catalog. Levi paced the room like a caged animal. His eyes were no longer fixed on the present, but sunk deep into a memory he'd never dared to speak. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks. Not loud, not soft, but deliberate. Hunter and Levi exchanged a glance. Not Holston. Holston wouldn't knock. Hunter walked to the door and opened it. Standing on the damp wooden porch was a young woman in a soaked black coat, holding something small and silver in her hand. She looked to be in her 20s. Hair pulled back, eyes ringed with exhaustion but burning bright. The gaze of someone who carried truth no one had ever believed. Her voice didn't shake, though her lips were blue from the cold. "Are you Hunter Callahan?" Hunter nodded. She held out her hand. "I'm Claire Lawson." Hunter froze. Levi stood up sharply behind him, eyes narrowing. "Lawson? Which Lawson?" Claire swallowed. From her pocket, she pulled out a small silver USB drive and placed it on the wooden table like an offering. "My father was Ray Lawson. He worked at Holston Stables. And he didn't die in an accident." The air in the room froze. Hunter pulled out a chair, motioned for her to sit. Claire clutched the hot coffee Levi handed her, like it was the only thing holding her together. "My dad didn't drink, but Holston said he was drunk that night. Fell from the loft. They said he was negligent, and they cremated him fast. No investigation. No press. Nothing." Her voice finally wavered for the first time since she arrived. "But I know, something happened that night. Because before he died, he left behind a USB drive. He hid it inside Rainbow Dash's old feedbox." Hunter and Levi turned toward each other, her words slicing straight into the marrow of what had been buried. Claire nodded. "It contains video footage. Internal camera. The last night Rainbow Dash was seen at Holston." Hunter's breath caught, eyes locked on the USB. "Why bring it here?" he asked. Claire looked up, eyes red but unshakable. "Because I know you're the only ones left who still want the truth dug up. I have no one else to trust. And if I hold onto it any longer, I'll die. They're watching me." Levi sprang to the window. Outside, a plume of dust rising from the trail. "Damn it," he muttered. "They're here." Tires. Heavy 4-wheeled tires crunching over gravel. Fast. No one knocked again. Claire whispered, trembling. "It wasn't me who led them here. I swear." Hunter stood, eyes sharpening. "It's all right. There's no turning back now." Levi reached for the old shotgun above the fireplace. His movements precise, instinctual. Hunter tucked the USB into the inside pocket of his coat. Then looked at them both. "We have to move Rainbow Dash. Now." An engine roar thundered from the road. Through the thick fog, a second black SUV appeared. Hunter shoved open the barn door, cold wind slapping his face. In the blotchy twilight of misty dawn, Rainbow Dash raised her head, ears perked toward the sound of engines approaching. No panic, only razor-sharp awareness. Levi, stuffing rounds into his shotgun, shouted. 2 SUVs, one from the east, one from the back road. "They're surrounding us." Hunter didn't hesitate. He grabbed a spare bridle and unlocked the stall. Rainbow Dash didn't flinch, as if she'd known this moment was coming. "No saddle. No time." Hunter barked. Claire, still disoriented, struggled to climb up onto the straw bench beside the stall. "Get on behind me," Hunter called. "We ride Dash out of here." Levi opened the next stall and hastily strapped a saddle onto an old horse named Thunder. "I'll cover you. Ride straight for the iron bridge." Outside, screeching tires, doors slamming open, a gunshot, glass shattered through the kitchen windows, shards spraying across the room. Claire screamed. Hunter didn't look back. He pulled Claire up onto Rainbow Dash's back, gripping the bridle tight. "Go, Dash, run." And Dash ran. No hesitation, no faltering, just pure detonation. With one explosive push, the horse everyone thought was half dead launched forward like an arrow released from a bow. Those legs, once dominant on the racetrack, came alive again. No whip, no saddle, just earth beneath her and freedom ahead. Bullets tore through the air. One clipped a wooden post. Levi yelled behind them, "I'll hold them, keep going." Hunter held Claire tight as Rainbow Dash thundered across the pasture. As they surged past the broken fence, One SUV tried to cut them off from the side. Its headlights blasted full glare onto the horse's chest, and in that moment, Dash leapt the ditch. A perfect jump. As if she'd never forgotten the thrill of a final sprint. The SUV skidded, dropped into the trench. Screams burst from its radio. Hunter flattened against Dash's back. No fear in his eyes now, only absolute trust. Just get us to the bridge. Dash, that's all we need. Ahead, an old iron bridge crossing the seasonal flood river. The boards were rotten. Handrails snapped. No guardrails. A death trap. Another SUV was closing in behind them. Claire cried out, "We won't make the turn." Hunter didn't reply. He knew. It was the bridge, or the river. He leaned down, whispered into Dash's ear, "Show them who you are. Final warrior." Rainbow Dash surged onto the bridge. Each hoafall rang with cracking wood. Metal groaned. The bridge trembled. But Dash didn't slow, didn't falter, didn't miss a single beat. The horse behind, Levi's Thunder, followed close. Older, heavier, but determined, like he knew this was the last time he'd have to believe in himself. Behind them, the SUV skidded to a halt. Too afraid to follow. Crack. A massive section of the bridge collapsed. Boards snapping, iron twisting into the rushing water below. But Dash had already crossed. And when Hunter looked back, he saw Levi burst through the other end, just as the planks behind him gave way and fell like broken teeth. On the far side, the men in black suits stood frozen. They couldn't follow. No way back. No second chance. Dash came to a halt on the hillside, sweat dripping from her dark coat. Hunter leaned forward, pressed a hand against her neck. "My God, you're still a champion." Claire clung to him, voice trembling. "We made it." Hunter looked down at the river, where the bridge now lay in pieces. Then turned back to Dash. The horse wasn't panting, wasn't shaking, just stood there, proud, still, as if she had never left the finish line. That afternoon, a cabin hidden deep among pine hills became their temporary sanctuary. No phones, no signal, just 3 people and a horse that carried the weight of a buried crime. On the scratched old dining table, a slim laptop sat in the center. Claire huddled close, hands still trembling, but eyes unblinking. Hunter stood beside her, arms folded across his chest, while Levi leaned silently against the doorway, his gaze replaying a decade of deceit. Hunter inserted the silver USB into the port. The screen flickered. A single folder appeared. security_log_0515.mov. Claire nodded softly. That night, Hunter opened the file. Black screen for a few seconds. Then grainy footage from a surveillance camera inside Holston Stable's main barn appeared. Low resolution, but enough to see. A man walking into frame, Ray Lawson, Claire's father. Behind him, Richard Holston, unmistakable figure. The audio was fuzzy, but clear enough to catch each word. "Ray, I can't let this go on." Richard, "Holston, you took the money. Stay silent." "Ray, this isn't about money anymore. This is about someone's life." Holston, voice like a blade. "Then you've chosen the wrong side." The camera jolted slightly. Ray stepped back, startled. A glint of metal in Holston's hand. Not a knife, not a gun, but a barn latch hook. Then, the screen went dark. One final gasp echoed in the silence. Claire burst into tears, doubling over. Levi raised a hand to his mouth. Hunter stood completely still. No one spoke. The footage needed no explanation. Holston had killed Ray Lawson. And Rainbow Dash, locked in the stall next door that night, had heard it all. Maybe seen it. Maybe that's why she was sent away. Hunter looked at Claire. She was shaking. "My dad, he knew. And he didn't run. He left this, for me," she whispered. Levi bowed his head, voice hoarse. "He didn't fall. He was silenced, because he was honest." The screen still glowed faintly. A secondary frame popped up. Footage of a truck leaving Holston Stables in the dead of night. The driver, a former stablehand. The cargo. Only one thing, Rainbow Dash. Holston didn't kill her, Hunter said slowly. He wanted to erase her. Throw her so far into the dirt that everyone would think Rainbow Dash was dead. Levi nodded. Because if she lived, the truth lived. Hunter clenched his fists. He murdered Claire's father. Buried Rainbow Dash beneath society's boots. And now, he's trying to do it again. Claire looked up, voice sharp beneath her tears. Not this time. He won't be fast enough. The laptop screen faded to black. The USB drive remained plugged in. Like a small key that had just unlocked the largest door to the truth. Rain returned, not heavy, but relentless. Each drop tapping the tin roof like a ticking clock counting down. The USB drive had been backed up. One copy now hidden deep inside a wooden planter beneath dried hay. Another, Hunter had sent out through the last working satellite uplink at an old fire station 3 miles away. But they all knew, one video clip wouldn't be enough to stop Holston. That afternoon, just when things seemed to settle, the black SUV returned. No attempt to hide, no subtlety. It rolled to a stop right in the front yard of the ranch. This time, in broad daylight, with everyone watching, Hunter, Levi, and Claire stood waiting. The door opened, but no guards stepped out. No men in suits. Richard Holston stepped out, alone. No coat, no sunglasses, just a black suit, slicked back hair, and a face without expression. He walked straight toward Hunter. No preamble, no politeness, just the final words. Holston, you've gone too far. Callahan, Hunter, not as far as you did. Holston, with a faint smile. You don't understand. This isn't about a horse. It's a dynasty, a system, a hierarchy. And you're just a strand of hay. Hunter, then I'm the last strand. The one that breaks the beast's back. Holston clenched his jaw. His eyes flashed, for the first time, like a blade catching sunlight. Holston, low voice. If that tape goes public, if people learn Ray Lawson was murdered, if they find out Rainbow Dash is still alive, everything collapses. Hunter. Good. A long silence. Then Holston stepped closer. Close enough that only the two of them could hear. Holston. This isn't a threat. It's a warning. They won't come to talk next time. They'll come to finish it. Hunter, whispering. I didn't spend my life on this land just to fear men like you. Holston pulled back. He glanced at each of them. Hunter, Levi, Claire, and finally, his eyes landed on the slightly ajar barn door. Rainbow Dash was watching. Not afraid. Not retreating. Just staring. Directly at the man who once broke her, and now still stood. Holston turned. Opened his car door. Good luck, Callahan. You'll need it when the fire comes. The SUV pulled away. Its tires grinding the earth, as if trying to erase the footprints that remained. Levi exhaled slowly. Eyes distant. We've just been sentenced, he said. Hunter didn't answer right away. He looked toward the barn. Toward Rainbow Dash. Then turned to Claire. They've had everything. But there's one thing they never owned. The truth. Claire nodded. Tears spilled again, but this time, her voice was steady. And this time, they can't buy that truth. Hunter turned back inside the house. On the table, the laptop remained open. The screen displayed. Upload completed. The copy had reached where it needed to go. The public fight was about to begin. And the cost was no longer hypothetical. That night, the clouds didn't cover the moon. A full moon hung over the scorched field like the eye of something watching. Silent and indifferent. Hunter didn't sleep. Claire didn't sleep. Levi didn't either. Rainbow Dash stood still in the stall, but did not rest. Her ears twitched with every distant sound. As if she, too, knew tonight would not be like any other. Near midnight, a soft explosion echoed from the northern fence line. Hunter turned to Levi. Levi nodded. They're here. No knocking. No headlights. No announcements. They came like predators in the dark. Flames ignited in the dry grass beyond the old field. A red spark growing quickly across cracked earth. Fire. Fast. Uncontrolled. They're burning the ranch. Claire screamed. Hunter gripped his rifle. No, not to destroy. They're flushing us out. Forcing Dash to show herself. Glass shattered in the barn. One intruder stormed in. Levi fired. The man went down, but two more followed behind. No more time. Hunter shouted. Claire, get on the horse. The stall door flew open. Rainbow Dash raised her head. Her eyes no longer those of a survivor. They were the eyes of a warrior entering her final charge. Hunter slapped her neck hard. One last time. Dash, we don't run to escape. We run to live, to tell the truth. Claire climbed onto her back. This time, without trembling. Hunter ran alongside, gripping the bridle. Levi behind them on the old horse. Thunder. They charged out of the barn. Into fire and bullets. Gunfire ripped through the night. Flames roared behind them. A bullet tore through Hunter's shoulder. But he didn't stop. Blood streamed down his arm. His eyes locked on the path ahead, where darkness hadn't yet burned. Claire screamed, but Rainbow Dash kept running, faster than fear itself. A black SUV skidded into their path, blocking the exit. Two men stepped out, rifles raised. Levi rode straight at them. Gunshots exploded. Thunder fell. So did Levi. Hunter whirled, but Levi threw out a hand, stopping him. Go. Don't let her die, like I did. Hunter clenched his jaw, blood dripping from his chin, and roared, "We'll come back. I swear it." And Rainbow Dash screamed, not the sound of a horse, but of 5 years of injustice finally breaking free. She burst forward, through the last gap, before fire consumed the last blade of grass. The SUV gave chase. Hunter held Claire tight, yelling over the wind and sirens. "We just need to reach the highway. The footage is out. Police are waiting." In the distance, sirens howled, still far, but close enough to become hope. Down the lonely highway, in a night on fire, a chestnut horse with no saddle raced like a thunderbolt. Behind her were those who wanted her silenced forever. But ahead was light, justice, and the return of a name they tried to erase. Rainbow Dash. Dawn rose slowly, not golden, not blazing, just a soft light bleeding through the lingering smoke that still clung to the edges of the half-burned field. But to Hunter, it was the most beautiful light he had ever seen. The police had arrived. The USB had been sent to 3 major news outlets. The video no longer belonged to anyone. It lived now as evidence. Unbuyable, unerasable. Claire, hands still stained with Levi's blood, wouldn't take her eyes off the phone. In her palm, a headline had just appeared. Leaked evidence. Holston Stables and the crime hidden for over 5 years. A photo of Rainbow Dash graced the top of the article. Then, one by one, the flood of headlines began, crashing in like waves. Legend returns from the dead. Ray Lawson. Killed stable-hander silent hero. 1 horse, 1 USB, and the fall of an empire. Holston was taken into custody that very morning. Not for a horse, but for a life. For the first time in decades, the racing dynasty was dragged into daylight. Chain investigations began. Big names, once protected, were now named, questioned, exposed. And it all started from an old barn and a creature the world thought it had forgotten. 3 days later, on a new field, quieter, wider, kinder, Hunter opened the gate and let Rainbow Dash step out. No more fences, no more shackles, no more past chasing from behind. Claire stood beside him, her eyes brighter now, a faded photo clutched tightly in hand. Her father, Ray, brushing Rainbow Dash's mane long ago. He always believed this horse carried something bigger than itself, she whispered. Hunter nodded, eyes still on Dash. Some beings aren't born to be tamed. They're born to remind us that truth, once it runs, can never be outrun. On the evening news, a few days later, a reporter announced, "Today, Rainbow Dash, the horse once declared dead, will be officially honored at the National Racing Memorial as a living symbol of justice, loyalty, and unbreakable spirit." Final scene. Hunter stepped into the old stable. Wind slipped through the cracks in the wood. The room was empty now, but the air still held traces of sweat. Hey, and a moment that had changed everything. He knelt down, his hand brushing the newly carved wooden plaque. Rainbow Dash. He didn't speak. He ran. Hunter smiled, a smile as soft as the first breeze of spring. "You told the story, old friend, and now the world is listening." Out in the field, Rainbow Dash ran, not because anyone told her to. Not for glory, not for legacy, just because she could. And no one could stop her ever again. If you've stayed with us this far, perhaps you already understand. This was never just about a horse. It was about a truth. One that had been buried, sold off, labeled as worthless, and yet, somehow, survived. It lived in every breath Rainbow Dash took. It lived in the unwavering gaze of Hunter. And it lived in the silent legacy of men like Ray Lawson. Those who refused to let truth be sold. In a world where power so often silences justice, sometimes it is a creature without words that tells a story louder than 1,000 defenses. Rainbow Dash wasn't born to win. She was born to endure and to bear witness. And you, if your heart stirred at any point along this journey, remember this: not everyone with a voice knows how to speak, and not everyone who is silent lacks a truth to carry. You've heard the story. Now, you're a part of it.